Okay, and it looks like our timer has wound down. I'll go ahead and press stop so it'll stop flashing at us. And I've restarted the recording so Nick will have something to refer to. It was almost too bad that I wasn't recording on the first day. The first day definitely has more activity, and I'm sure he's going to see like 15, 20 minutes of us just sitting here working on our drawings and not a lot of action. But you can always fast forward through it, and hopefully it'll be helpful to him. So we talked about inserting blocks in the last section. We inserted the windows, we inserted the doors, we inserted the residential fixture drawing, which had a bunch of blocks already in it. And one of those blocks was is the stairs. And I haven't inserted that one yet. That, as long as I've been teaching here, that block, the stairs, has been in that drawing. And I a lot of times will sort of refuse to insert it because it never fits quite right. I tried to fix it. We'll see if my fix helps. We may have to adjust it. But questions on anything before we start up? Questions at all? Okay. I'm going to switch into Autocad. And I'm going to insert the stairs, and I'm on the plumbing layer, and I certainly don't want my stairs to go on the plumbing layer, but I'm probably going to explode the stairs after I place them, and I'll put them on the wall layer, so it almost doesn't matter. I'll click Insert, go find it's called Banister, actually. The drawing is called Banister, the block is. And I'll left click on the banister, and as I zoom in, I can see the base point is a ½ inch below this little square or three sides of a square. I'll left click the bottom right corner of the outside of bedroom 3, left click, pull my mouse to the right, and left click. So it fits fine here, but it fit. All right, maybe I should just shut up. I did correct it a little bit, so give that a try. Insert your stairs or your banister, air quotes, and see how that fits for you. How'd that work, Taylor? Did that work all right?
Yeah, it looks a little overlapping though.
Like at the top?
Yes. Is that normal?
No, I don't think it's supposed to be. So
Maybe I need to move it down.
you can move it down some. And so, what's the best way to move it down? You could probably. Have you started moving it yet?
No.
It, it extends a little bit. It's so tough to think, but I'm going to move mine. I'll just move it up. I'll just arrow key up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to drag it. Wait 1 second. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. I just moved it up. So I'm going to enable another object snap. From my object snaps, I'll open up this list and I'll click on perpendicular. And what that's going to allow me to do is this. I'll left click the stairs, left click move, left click the end point of the arc, and I'll just move straight down, and that perpendicular will show up like the ortho mode icon, and left click, and that should be enough to put it where you need it to be. It's always been a little tricky to get that to sit in there properly. Did that work for you?
Yes.
Nice. Okay. So now I mentioned I want to explode this. This thing is a block, and sometimes that's fine. Like the doors are blocks, the windows are blocks, the plumbing fixtures are blocks. But we're going to put some hatching or some shading inside of this, inside of these arcs, and sometimes AutoCAD freaks out a little bit when you try to put hatch in a block. So I'm going to left click the stairs, I'm going to left click explode, and what's going to happen is that the set of stairs are going to change to the color white, which tells me this set of stairs was most likely drawn on the layer 0. It's a pretty common process. Blocks will be drawn on the layer 0. I can see the arc is on layer 0. Those lines are on layer 0 and so forth. But now what I'll do is I'll use the Match Properties button from the Properties panel, right in the block panel. I'll click Match Properties. I'll click on one of the wall lines, and then I'll just make a window that captures all the line work associated with the stairs, and I've just moved all that line work to the the wall layer, which it probably shouldn't be on the wall layer, but it's not a big deal. All right, good time to save. Questions on anything at all? Questions at all? Okay. So we've inserted, well, here's something. I'm going to get rid of the residential fixtures drawing off to the right side. I don't need that anymore. In fact, I could have erased it before I put all these fixtures in, but sometimes it's a little unsettling when I do that. So I'm going to left click on any part of the residential fixture line work. I'll hit delete, and that's no longer part of my drawing. And so we've talked about inserting blocks on page 36. We can also talk about creating blocks. Two of the blocks that we inserted, we created them, right? The window drawing was drawn separately as a separate drawing. The door drawing drawn separately as a separate drawing. That's one of my favorite ways to sort of build a block library, or like a big resource that I can use to build other drawings. Sometimes though you need a block in place. You need a block right here and right now. So I'm going to draw the line work that we see on page 37. It's just a rectangle that is 5 feet by 2'6". I'll use the rectangle tool, left click the first corner, and I'll just type in 60, hit tab, 30, enter, and it will look like this. First of all, I'm going to change layers. I'm going to change to the layer 0. It's a common practice when people draw line work for blocks, they set layer 0 current. So I'll go to, I'm on layer 0, or layer 0 is the current layer. I click rectangle, left click the first corner, and I'll type in 60. I'll hit tab or comma, 30, enter. Give that a try. That's the size of the desk I'm sitting at right now, and it's the size of our training room, training tables, and this would be a good block to add. It doesn't have a real purpose in a residential floor plan, but you get the idea. I'm going to take a break for just a second, folks. I was supposed to go see Nikisha at the break, and I ran a biological errand instead. So I'll keep drawing your line work there, and I'm going to be like a minute, I think. I'm going to put the microphone on pause.
Just Skype me.
Sorry about that, guys. So here's what's happening. Here's so Nikisha came in. I think you've probably received emails from Nikisha. She's awesome. She's our training coordinator, and we have one login for GoTo training. And she said to me, "Hey, come see me at your break." And I ran to the bathroom, and so I forgot to go. And I put a Post-it note on my screen. It's right. I keep moving it around so I can see my screen. So that's what an idiot I am. But she needs to use the GoTo training login. We only have the one login. She has to upload some materials for later in the week. I'm teaching a level 2 class also to General Dynamics. So she's leaving at 4, but we'll be done before 4. It's not a big deal. So that's what happened there. I didn't want you to feel left out of the loop. All right, so line work. We've created some line work. In this case, we're going to say it's a desk, but it could be, maybe you don't work with furniture. You might work with, I think I had some folks that were working with like I don't even know. There was some sort of chemicals and piping and blah 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 and all sort of things like that. So typically you're going to make line work that you're going to use repeatedly in your drawings, and you're like, you know what, man? If I'm going to keep putting desks in this drawing, or in my drawings, I want to have some line work I can just I can insert on the fly. So I've created a rectangle. Maybe you have 2. This rectangle is 5 feet in the horizontal. It's 2 feet 6 in the vertical. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit escape here and to deselect it. And in the book, you can kind of see this in the book. So we may have inserted some of our blocks from the Insert tab of the ribbon, the block panel. Also on the Insert tab, on the block definition panel, there's a command called Create Block, and we'll use that to turn this rectangle into a block called Desk. So back in Autocad, I'm going to switch from my Home tab to the Insert tab, and then on the block definition panel, there's a button called Create Block, and if I click the word Create Block, it opens up, and there's 2 types of commands. One is Create Block, the other is Write Block. Write Block would create a block that lives on somewhere in my folders, not in this drawing. Create Block will create a block that lives in this drawing, and lives is a weird way to say it, but resides or what have you. So the command I'm going to use, the command that's shown on page 36, is Create Block. When you're ready, click on that, and I'll pause for a second. So you may, hopefully, let me know if you can't find it, if you're having a hard time finding that dialog box. This is something I think I can, and I'm thinking of you, Taylor, where you may have one monitor. I'm not sure, Sean, if you have one monitor or 2 monitors, but I probably can talk you through this dialog box without you looking at my screen, I think. So, oh, you have 2. Okay, nice. Okay, so that's of no consequence then. What I'm going to do here, and Taylor, I'll try to walk you through this so you're not bouncing back and forth. I think you do have one monitor. Blocks are an example of things in AutoCAD that are referred to as named objects. You can have any number of these things in your drawing. They just have to have unique names. So this desk, I'm going to call it desk. What I can't call it is window or door or tub or whatever, because it'll overwrite any of those other instances. But in this case, I want to call it desk, so I'm going to capitalize this out of habit. Desk is the name of my block, and you can type in the name of your block. If you're following along, you can type in desk. Once you type in the name of the block, we should define a base point. I'm going to sort of work my way from left to right in this dialog box, and there's a lot of stuff here in this dialog box. We don't have to touch it all. Right? We do need to touch the pick point button. We need to place a point on that block that will be the base point. For our window, the extreme left side of the window was the base point. For the door, same thing, where 0, 0 was in the original drawing. For my desk, it's nowhere near 0, 0. 0, 0 is way down here somewhere, bottom left corner of the master bathroom. I'm going to click pick point And then using my midpoint object snap, I'll left click the top midpoint of that rectangle, left click, and I'll wait. So I tend to use this command two different ways. I'm using it starting the command first, and then I'll select the object. Sometimes I select the object first. Some commands in AutoCAD allow for that. So I neglected to select my object. You can probably see in the middle, below middle center of this dialog box on my screen, it says no objects selected. So you need to have some object to support your block. We'll click the Select Object button in the Objects area, left click the rectangle, and then press Enter to bring back your dialog box.
Wait, I missed that last step.
What's that?
What did you just do? I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm going to click the Select Object button. I'll go Select Objects, I'll left click the rectangle, and then hit Enter, which brings back the dialog box.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So at this point, we've done enough. We can just hit OK and we'll have a block. But some of the things that are here, I'll kind of show you. Under Select Objects, by default, you're probably having Convert to Block as your current option, which just means the line work that's sitting here in my drawing will no longer be a rectangle. AutoCAD will recognize it as a block, which is fine. I like that. However, if I choose Retain, the rectangle or polyline, whatever you want to call it, will stay a polyline, but I'll still have a block. All three of these options result in me having a block called Desk. I always imagine if someone were going to create about 6 or 8, even 2 or 3 desks, you might use the Retain option, make your block, and then OK, and then rework the line work, add some detail to it, whatever. We're going to convert to block. Then on the right side, and then delete would be, it's going to get rid of your line work, but you'll still have a block you can insert into your drawing. On the right side, allow exploding. If you don't mind someone exploding your block and reworking it, you can leave allow exploding selected. And then for scale uniformly, sometimes I uncheck this. If I have this block and I want to make it bigger, I think of the window when I get to this point. Like say I've got a window opening that is 6 feet wide, not 3 feet wide. Well, if I don't check scale uniformly, I can scale this window block twice as large in the X, leave it the same height in the Y, and it won't distort, but I can make it a 6 foot wide window. So sometimes I'll uncheck scale uniformly. And I rarely check annotative behavior or annotative under behavior. What annotative is when you change your annotation scale, which right now on my status bar, if you can see my screen, this and probably your screen too, the annotative scale is 1:1. Well, for our PDF that we brought in, we scaled it up by a factor of 64. If we made this desk annotative and changed the scale to 3/16 of an inch equals 1 foot like the PDF was, that desk will get 64 times larger than it currently is, which is not desirable. Some things should be annotative, but not like real world objects. A desk that someone might sit at should just stay non-annotative. So we've done enough. We gave it a name, we chose a base point with the pick point button, we selected objects, and there we have it. Questions on any of that? Cool. When you're ready, hit OK. It's not very dramatic, right? When you hit OK, you're just out of the dialog box. But if I were to hover over the block reference that I created, or hovered over that polyline that I started with, it just reports itself as a block reference. Now the reason I drew it on layer 0 is when I insert this block into my drawing, objects that are drawn on layer 0, like my desk, and then converted to a block, like my desk, will adopt all the properties of whatever layer is current when you insert these objects. So if I change to my iFern layer, I actually have 2 now because of No, that's a P-fix, sorry. When we brought in the residential fixtures drawing, it brought in a couple layers of its own. But I'll set iFern current, then I'll click insert, and the way this works is the blocks are sorted by order of insert. So the last block I inserted was desk. It's at the bottom of my gallery. I'll click desk, and I'll left click to place this thing and rotate it. It comes in red because the layer iFern is a red layer and so forth. So that's kind of desirable when you have blocks. Some people will actually build their block on the layer that it will end up on, but other people won't. They'll say, you know what, I want to have this block be able to be a new desk or a demo desk or an existing desk, and all three of these things could have different properties aligned with them, and so the properties could be assigned from the layer. So drawing your block line work on layer 0 is often, desirable. Okay. For the meantime, I'm going to erase both my blocks. Just clear the screen, more or less, clear the drawing out. Questions on creating blocks or inserting blocks or anything at all? Okay. So I'm going to save the drawing. I'm going to bring up the book. I'm going to depart page 36 and 37, arrive at page 38 and 39, and there really is no need for us to undertake the activities on page 38 and 39 because of our insertion of the residential fixtures drawing into our drawing. Design Center is a tool. It looks a lot like, almost like File Explorer from Microsoft. You can sort of look at my screen. There's File Explorer, and then there's Design Center. It's a little bit different. But what Design Center allows you to do is to navigate to folders where drawings are stored, dig into those drawings, and copy out named objects like blocks. And the only reason I didn't do it in our class is the hard part about using a Design Center is just finding the drawings. And a lot of people will just insert a drawing like residential fixtures into their drawing anyways. But if you watch my screen, I'll demonstrate how this works. First of all, Design Center is a very small button on the View tab of the ribbon on the Palettes panel. So in AutoCAD, I'll go to the View tab. Right, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs from the left. I'll click View tab, and then the Palettes panel is 1, 2, 3, 4 panels from the left, and then one of the smaller buttons. There's 2 rows of small buttons, and Design Center is in the first row, last row, first column there. And I'll click on Design Center. And mine will look a little different than yours would if you were going to bring it up, but I'll quickly change it. Well, I'll try to quickly change it. There we go. This is what Design Center typically looks like the very first time you use it. It's looking at some folders that are underneath the AutoCAD installation folder, and on the left side, you've got sort of the folder list area where you can sort of sort through any folder, any server that your computer can see. And what I'll do is I'll scroll up, and I'm going to click on C. I'll single click C, and then I'll find Documents. I think it's just Documents. Documents and Settings. I may have to go C. Then here's the hard part. See, Users, then My Login, Mord, then Documents, then AutoCAD 2019 Level 2, and finally I'm in the folder. So now you can see I had to drill in, and to avoid that, I just asked you to insert the residential fixtures, excuse me, I'm having a hard time talking today, residential fixtures drawing. I'm going to scroll down until I see it, and I think I'm in the wrong folder. Let me just, that's AutoCAD, I should be in GD. Let me go back to Users. Sorry, hold on. Mord, going to Documents, AutoCAD, this GD student drive. That's why I'm messing up. I work in too many different folders. Darren's expenses. There it is, GD student files. Double click on it. Then I'm going to double click on residential fixtures. There it is. Double click. And so when you get into a drawing, you'll see these icons like blocks all the way up to XREFs. These are categories that might be populated in your drawing and they might not. So usually you'll have some blocks, sometimes you'll have some layers, whatever. We know there are blocks in residential fixtures, so I'm going to double click on blocks here. And what will happen is AutoCAD will build a thumbnail for each of these blocks, and I can drag and drop these things into my drawing. Right, so if I just click and drag banister, right, you'll see it'll sort of show up in my crosshairs, and when I release it, it's effectively the same thing as clicking insert and browsing to a location of a block. The only reason I didn't ask you to do that is because it's so clunky just trying to find the class folder with Design Center. But it's a great tool. You know, once you have placed your blocks in a sort of I don't know if centralized is the right term, but definitely memorable, a location where you can go back to them again and again and again. This tool will allow you to cleanly bring blocks into your drawing, and cleanly sounds kind of negative, like there's a not clean way to do it. But when we inserted the residential fixtures drawing into our drawing, it brought in layers with it. It brought in textiles. It brought in more things than we can see, and that's not even a big deal. But some folks don't like to do that, and Design Center helps you just selectively pull stuff from your from drawings. So I'm going to delete this set of stairs that I put in bedroom 2, and there we go. I'll just select it, and then I'll hit delete on my keyboard. So that's Design Center. I'm using it, I'm just demonstrating it with a block, but there's, you know, layers, textiles, and things like that. Questions on Design Center? Questions at all? All right, I want to punch out of that. I'll hit the X. And then our next topic is page 40, tool palettes. I would love to skip this topic, but I'm going to show you this topic. This is there are things in AutoCAD called tool palettes that come preloaded with a select few sample blocks, and no one AutoCAD user would ever be able to use every one of the. Hey, you know what? You might make a liar out of me. You might. Oh, I'm using all of these things, but I'll show you what I'm talking about here. The tool palettes are located on the View tab of the ribbon in the Palettes panel. So if I go to AutoCAD, all right, I'm still on the View tab because that's where I was earlier to find Design Center. So the Tool Palettes is the big button, one of the first big buttons on the Palettes panel. Go ahead and locate that, and then left click on it, and then we'll come back and look at my screen afterwards. I just want to make sure mine is set up properly. I have extra palettes that I put on here. I'm just getting rid of them. Are you finding that okay?
Yes.
Good. Did you find it, Sean?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So, and you may recall this from last time. So, tool palettes come preloaded with some commands. The first tab you might see is modeling, and you know there's 7 or 8 modeling tools. They might be commands to modify models or create them, whatever. And then you'll have constraints. These are rules you can apply to your line work. Probably the top 2 tabs are fairly underused. Then you'll have annotation. This is a pretty good tool, tab to use, but you've got to assign scale to your model space, and currently we have no scale assigned. Finally, the fourth tab is architectural, and this comes preloaded with about 10 or 12 samples that you can use. And I think for this drawing right now, if our business is putting together drawings that look like this one, probably the best block on this palette is the toilet-imperial. So if you watch as I bring this in, you'll get an idea what I'm referring to. I'm going to click toilet imperial and then release that, and what I'll have is this toilet, in elevation at my crosshairs, and I'll zoom in and left click and place this thing. So I'm on the wrong layer already. I'm just going to use my match properties. If I just go home, match properties, I'll left click one plumbing fixture and then left click this toilet. So, I'm probably going to have a hard time selling this to you at first, because here's this toilet that looks like it fell over. It fell on its back in this drawing because it's shown in plan view. No, it's shown in elevation. Our toilet is shown in plan view. It's so funny, and I wasn't there when this happened. This drawing was here probably a solid 5 years before I came to work here. So much detail in the soaking tub, so much detail in the shower, so little detail in this toilet. Maybe it's by design. So we use this other toilet here. The blocks on this tool palette have little lightning bolts on them, and the lightning bolt signifies a block that is dynamic. If I click on my toilet block, it just has one grip. Like any of these blocks will just have one grip. That's the base point where 0, 0 was in that drawing. Well, this block, if I click on it, I get like 3 grips. One allows me to flip what side the handle is on. Basically, it has a built-in mirror command. Then I've got the base point grip. I can use it to relocate the block. Finally, the little triangular grip at the bottom, this is a dynamic menu. If I click on the menu icon, I can change this to a plan view. That's an elongated plan toilet. Or I can change it to a round plan toilet. So I've just sort of shortened it up there. So this is kind of a nice, it's got some good detail. It's got detail matching the level of some of these other blocks. And then I can move it into place. Now, a couple other grips showed up on this toilet. The top of the tank is an alignment grip. I click on this and start heading for the location where the original toilet is. I can find the midpoint and left click and it will align itself. So that's a little bit nicer, a little bit fancier toilet block. And I'll just delete the original one, the one that's just a circle and a, there we go, and a circle and a rectangle. So try that if you want. Go ahead and click and release on any one of those blocks. Get a feel for what it's like to insert one of those things and see if it's something you want to use.
How do you make the toilet show from like a bird's eye view again?
Let me back up. Undo, 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 undo. There we go. So when you single left click on it, it shows some grips. And the grip at the bottom left corner, if you will, or below and left of the toilet, that is a sort of a menu of display modes. Click on that and click either elongated plan or round plan.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. I mean, subject matter's not fun, but and there's all kinds of grips. Like there's a grip in the bowl. I hate having to say this, but once you get it in plan view, there's a grip that will allow you to rotate it without having to use the rotate command. There's a grip that allows you to move it without using the move command at the back of the tank, and that grip also allows you to align to other planes, or if you whatever you pass over, whatever line you pass over, AutoCAD will try to align to that line or whatever it is. So it's they're very convenient, these dynamic blocks, but there's probably no 3 that you would use in your drawing. You might be able to make use of 1 or 2 or who knows what. I'm going to hit escape to deselect that. And I'll delete the one that was brought in first if I can find it. That's the hard part, is getting... Yeah, I got it. A good time to save the drawing. Do either of you see some blocks on those palettes that you might use with any frequency? I'm going to say that's a no. And I don't think that's uncommon. I think that they're not used. I mean, they're just samples. They're really just intended to be samples. Yeah, 2. That's not bad. So here's the thing about this, and I say this a lot, and I probably say a lot of things a lot. AutoCAD's not really designed exclusively for floor plan creation. So the authors of this tool palette, they just threw some samples on there, architectural samples, civil samples, and it's funny. I work with some civil software. I never used like a international speed limit sign or whatever, but they're just samples. They're just accessories you might be able to use in a pinch, I think is what's happening there. All right, questions?
I want
to
to.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to flip the one. Like I got the one toilet to flip the view of it. I'm trying to do another one. How do you? I got the arrows up on it, like the down arrow, the left arrow. How do I flip the view of it?
So, are we talking about a toilet or a different one?
Toilet, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to bring a toilet in, and I'll left click, and again, I'm going to change what layer it lives on. I'm on the wrong layer. P4 fixed. I'll left click on this so that one grip allows you to flip it back and forth. The triangle at the bottom, that one allows you to choose your display mode. This is a, what do they call that? I mean, you don't care what the button's called, but you just that working?
Got that.
Okay. What's the other one?
And I'm trying to go to the top view.
So elongated plan is one top view.
Okay.
And then there's round plan.
I gotcha.
Yeah. And of course, probably be big in the cities of New Jersey, that pole chain. There's the pole chain right there. I'm sure you use a lot of those. Actually, the only time I've ever seen one of those is in The Godfather, and that scene where he hides the gun, whatever. The guy hide the gun behind the toilet.
That was on on IFC all weekend long, all yesterday.
Did you watch any?
1, 2, 3. I've seen them. I'm like, I don't have all day to sit here and watch.
No. I mean, thank goodness I didn't see that. I had a lot of yard work to do. If I see it, if I walk past the TV and it's on, I'm like, I'm done. Forget about it, But my mom, I think I mentioned, my mom lives in a log cabin up in New Hampshire, and I would think this would be kind of a cool, sort of stylized fixture to have in her house, except that she's got a window that sits about like this, and the tank would block the window, so it doesn't make sense. And she probably doesn't want to have a pull chain. I'm sure they're a maintenance nightmare and whatever else. So imagine that when the thing, like I have a toilet that runs at my house right now. Like it just sometimes the flapper hangs open. You'd have to get up on the seat of this thing and stick your. Anyways, it's simpler time now. Okay. Other questions about blocks or design center or tool palettes, anything at all?
Nope.
All right. What's our next topic? Our next topic is this is page 40, 42. Okay, external references. I always try to avoid this topic, but the topic does have value. Let's go through this and we'll make this our last topic. So first thing, Taylor, you and I need to get rid of the floor plan that's already there, the PDF floor plan. Do you still have yours?
Yes.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come into my AutoCAD drawing, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And this thing, if I hover over it, it'll report itself as if I can hover in the right place. This is a PDF. Where are you? There you are. It's a PDF underlay. This thing is these are two separate files, and they'll never become one. One is residing temporarily in the other. If you left click anywhere on your PDF, I don't think it matters where. Left click on your PDF. What you get is a context-sensitive ribbon tab that is equipped with a few commands that allow us to do a little bit of manipulation with this PDF, but not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot we can do to it. On that ribbon tab, the PDF underlay tab, if you go to your options panel, which is the third panel from the right, and then click on external references. External references. That'll bring up a palette, and this palette will show you the references that are in this drawing. And I'm a little, I don't recall putting the bedroom manual in here, but it's in here. So, did you get that palette, Taylor?
Yes.
Okay. All we have to do is right-click. I'm going to right-click over a class file for viewing and plotting. Right-click and choose Detach. Detach, and that dismisses that PDF forever. And we can always reattach it if we needed to, but in this case we don't need to. I'm going to do the same thing with bedroom manual handout. I don't recall. I guess I did bring that in yesterday or the other day, and it didn't look right, so I did a plan B. So I'll right-click over that and detach, and now I've just simplified this drawing pretty nicely. And once you're done, you can hit the X on your external reference palette to get rid of it. Oh, also, you can get rid of your tool palette if you want to. Okay, so far so good?
Yes.
All right. Do you both have the drawing called bedroom manual? I think it's called bedroom manual, or what the heck is that drawing? I'm gonna click open for a second here. Drawing is called. Oh, I don't have it either. Do either of you have that drawing though?
No.
Okay, let's do this then. You know what? Let's just use. You have class. I think you both have class file for viewing and plotting. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, we'll use that one. So the graphics on page 42 show the insert tab of the ribbon highlighted, and the reference panel, the attach button on the reference panel is highlighted. So we're going to sort of retrace the steps that Taylor and I undertook this morning to bring in that PDF. Go to your insert tab first. We'll go insert tab, and then on the reference panel, go ahead and click attach. And certainly for Taylor and I, we're going to have, we might be looking in the right folder. For me, it's GD student files. but the file of type is currently set to PDF. That's the last file type we brought in. Change your file of type, or yours, and Sean, yours might be set to all image files, possibly. I'm going to change this to drawing.dwg. That's the second from the bottom, the second option from the bottom. And then that will show us the drawing files that we have in the folder that we're looking into at the moment. Once you find your drawings, go ahead and left click on class file for viewing and plotting. You might get a funny preview. My preview is showing me zoomed into bedroom number 2. That's fine, I'm not going to worry too much about it. We'll select the file and then click open. And as you're doing that, I'm kind of explaining why you might use an external reference. External references are kind of like blocks. They are rigid, they're not easy to edit, you know, they kind of behave as one object. Blocks, we use blocks because, you know, we don't want to draw the window 18 or 20 times. We want to draw it once and then just insert it. You can kind of do the same thing with an external reference, but really what the external reference main purpose is to allow, say, all 3 of us are part of the same design team and we're all working on the same floor plan. We can reference this one floor plan into all 3 of our drawings, and if something changes in the original drawing, we're alerted to that fact. If a wall is moved, if a door is moved, we're alerted to the that change, and we can reload that file. Or maybe you're a singular person, you're working on a project all by yourself, but this floor plan appears in more than one drawing. If I have this floor plan in more than one drawing, I can reference it in, and if there's changes that need to take place, we make those changes in the original drawing. Hard time talking. And anyways, when changes occur, we realize those changes in our drawing. It's a reference. So when you use this, did you guys both fully find the drawing or find a drawing? Doesn't matter what drawing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So whatever the drawing is, it's really not of consequence. When you reference in a drawing with newer Autocad, not by newer I mean 2017 up to 2019, and you can, I think you have 17, right, Sean? Is that right?
Yes.
Did your file come in as a relative path under path type?
Let's see. I don't know how it came in.
Oh, you already completed it?
I already opened it, yeah.
All right, it's not a big deal. It really isn't. You can look at my screen if you want to. So in newer AutoCAD, and I think that includes 2017 AutoCAD, is when you reference one drawing into another, the drawing being referenced will come in with a relative path. And all that means is if there's any chance of me sharing these drawings with Taylor, I was like, hey, Taylor, get in on this project with me. I send her GD residential class file, and I send her a class file for viewing and plotting. If this defaulted to a full path, which it used to, she would have to build the exact same path that I had set up when I put these drawings together. But with a relative path, it's just going to look, so this drawing GD residential class file will look locally, it will look up to one folder away for our class file for viewing and plotting, which typically that's how the drawings the projects are set up. You might have a folder called Project A, and in that folder you have one drawing where the reference file might sit, and another folder where the printable drawing will sit. So they're kind of they're both in the same folder, but they're in different folders, but those folders are in the same folder. I hope that makes sense. If our path type is set to no path, these two files have to be in the exact same folder. That's kind of the difference between those two things. If full path is used and I share these drawings with somebody else, they're going to have to recreate that path to make sure that these drawings find each other. So AutoCAD sets it up so we get a relative path the first time around, so it's just ease of use. You know, I don't have to worry too much about, because it's very common to put drawings together in one location and then send them out to a different. Pardon me, I just sneezed. Send them out to a different location. So I'm going to leave this at relative, and then we have this reference type. Most of this dialog box, much of this dialog box is very similar to the insert block dialog box, but path type is different, as is reference type is different. Reference type governs something called nesting. Now, when we inserted residential fixtures into our current drawing, it brought with us the door, the window, the banister, and all that stuff, and those blocks were nested. If we reference one drawing into another, and attachment is chosen as the reference type, that means I can reference class file for viewing and plotting into GD residential class file. All the line work from class file from viewing and plotting will show up in this drawing, and then if I reference this drawing into any other drawing using the attachment type, all the line work from class file for viewing and plotting shows up no matter how many generations away I get from the original. If we use overlay type, it's only good for one generation away from the original. So if I reference class file for viewing and plotting into GD residential class file, I gotta remember these names, it's driving me crazy. But if I reference class file for viewing and plotting into GD residential, all the line work shows up if I overlay, but once in GD residential, but if I reference GD residential into any other drawing, none of this line work shows up. It's only good for one generation from the original. So for our example, let's use the attachment type, and then make sure you have specify on screen checked under insertion point. Scale of 1 is fine. Leave the scale at 1. Leave the rotation at 0. And when you're ready, hit OK, and just left click off to the right of your current floor plan and observe. Good time to save when you're ready. So if you've completed that command, a floor plan that we've been working on that looks just like the floor plan we're working on has shown up, but it's really faded, like it's old or it's muted or it's behind something. And that's by design. It won't print like that, but that's just a visual cue to the AutoCAD user that, hey, look, this line work is part of an external reference. Don't try to edit it. In fact, if you do, if you click on it, you saw this with the PDF. When you click on an external reference, the whole thing is selected like it's a block, and it kind of is. And a few tools will show up on the external reference ribbon tab. So this is considered to be a drawing underlay or a reference drawing that we would use. Like the three of us are not adding new walls or removing walls or moving walls. We're just adding some sort of line work. For me, I used to be a fire alarm guy, a security guy, and I would add my fire alarm and security devices over this floor plan. Now, this is very similar to a block, except if someone changes this drawing, and I'll go change it. I'm going to go ahead and you can watch as I do this. I'll click open, and I'll open up class file for viewing and plotting, and I'm going to just erase this rectangle that I put in here. I don't know when I did it. Last week I guess. I'll delete it, and then I'll zoom out all the way, and I'll hit save, and I'll close this. When I come back to this drawing, I don't know if you can see this, the bottom right corner of my drawing window, it says an external reference file has changed and may need reloading. And if I zoom in, there it is. It's in red. In red, there's this rectangle. Because that rectangle was drawn on layer 0 in the original drawing, when I click reload, the little reload hyperlink, it gets rid of that little red rectangle, and that's kind of the idea. Your external reference is a live copy of another drawing inside of your current drawing, and any changes that the project manager or the chief architect or whomever makes, we realize these changes. We see these changes. Questions on any of that? Now, will you be taking care of, will you be putting drawings together for a client, or are you putting drawings together for your own organization?
Internal.
Yeah, okay. So it's not entirely, and I can't tell you all the stuff that, I mean, you know better than I ever will what you're going to do. But what I've seen in the past is typically if someone's working internally, they're not going to set up their drawings to be referenced like this, not usually. But they may have drawings they're working with that already were set up like that, like they came from an architect or an engineer, and that's just how they're set up. So you may encounter drawings, you click on, you want to delete a window, you click on this window and the whole thing lights up. So this is kind of something to look for, to kind of be aware of. Questions on any of that? Questions at all on attaching an external reference? All right, let's save this, save the drawing. We'll call it a day at this point. We made some good progress. I mean, we went from, what, just having the master bedroom, I think, and then we grew to have like almost 2/3 more drawing. The stairs are in, the windows and doors are in. Tomorrow morning we'll get rid of this external reference. And what else are we going to do? Back to the PowerPoint. We've gotten up to external references. We actually talked about tool palettes. So tomorrow morning what I want to do is we'll get rid of we'll just a few more odds and ends about external references. We'll shade our walls. The command is called hatch. Then we'll get into placing text, placing dimensions, and then getting the drawing ready to print. So we've got a, tomorrow is kind of a short, it's a shorter list of things to do. So it won't be as much as we covered today. Questions on anything at all? Awesome. So we'll save the drawing, and you can shut down your AutoCAD if you want to, or you can continue to play, and you can exit the Go-To training session, and we'll start again tomorrow at 9.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hope you have a good night.
You too.
Good night, Sean.
Good night. See you tomorrow.
You bet. Have a good night. Save. Doom.